Welcome, everyone, to the Apoco-Larry podcast. I'm Steve. He is...
I don't know. Can I be Dr. Van Beek tonight? After last week, I don't know if I should just be Reverend Van Beek.
No, you're going to be Dr. Van Beek.
Okay, I'll be Dr. Van Beek because Reverend Van Beek can screw up the stuff and still preach a good message or something.
But you could be like
totally unbiblical.
You could be the Dr. Van Beek that goes around and solves crimes and stuff like that too, while explaining deep theological treatises.
Oh yes. Except I would solve crimes, except I have zero ability to notice anything. No observational powers whatsoever.
That's right. I'm sorry, I'm gender impaired and I didn't see that.
Well, it does have an advantage. As a registrar, that I remember nothing or don't notice anything helps me to be impartial. Which I think is good. No, there is something we need to say to start this one off.
Okay.
I don't know if I gave the impression in the last one that Delilah was Samson's first wife, and I think because I talked about Delilah and I talked about the changes, and it may have suggested that first wife was Delilah, but Delilah is not his wife, and that was somebody else altogether that he married.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't meet Delilah till chapter 16. Okay. So it still fits, everything still fits. It's just if I suggested that Delilah was that wife, then that would have been quite wrong.
Okay.
And so he married a girl in chapter 14, and then remember he did the thing with the clothes and all that. Now in chapter 15 he's going to come back to visit her, and then that's where we pick it up.
Okay.
And then in chapter 16, which we'll do tonight, Steve.
Yes,
hopefully,
we will.
And that's where he meets Delilah.
Mm-hmm. Which was a great song. Oh no, that's Lola. I'm getting it wrong again. Sorry.
Well, there's also, Hey Delilah. He meets her in the bus station in New York, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
which was based on him meeting a woman named Delilah at a bus station in New York, I think.
Huh.
Yeah.
Huh.
Which is fairly obvious, I guess.
Chapter 15. Let's start at verse 1 for those of you playing the at-home edition. Later on...
And by the way, if we're totally wrong about this Delilah in the song about New York, we don't care.
No. Don't write us. We're not going to...
But we do care about the Delilah in Judges.
Yeah.
Well, we don't care about her.
Yeah, no, but we care that we get it right.
We care. We want to get this thing right for our multitudes of listeners.
Our esteemed listeners that we...
Our esteemed listeners.
Yes. Okay. Verse 1 of chapter 15. Later on, at a time of the wheat harvest, Samson took a young goat and went to visit his wife. He said, I'm going to my wife's room, but her father would not let him go in. I was so sure you hated her, he said. I gave her to your companion. Isn't her younger sister more attractive? Take her instead. Wow, Dad, well done.
These are obviously, this is not the book for the modern woman.
Oof.
This is it's harsh patriarchal stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Verse 3.
He would go to jail for that.
Yeah, and he should. Verse 3. Samson said to them, "This time I have a right to get even with the Philistines. I will really harm them." Okay. So he went out and caught 300 foxes and tied them tail to tail in pairs. He fastened a torch to every pair of tails, lit the torches, and let the foxes loose in the standing grain of the Philistines. He burned up the stalks. Are they called shocks?
Shocks of grain, yeah.
I did not know this. I keep thinking. The shocks and standing grain, together with the vineyards and olive groves.
Like when you pile the grain together, you pull it together, it's shocks.
Okay.
I'm guessing.
Sure.
So the question here is, where do you get 300 foxes?
Yeah.
Like, how many foxes were running around in those days?
Yeah.
And he takes them, and I thought he actually lit their tails on fire, but he actually just ties torches to their tails. So it's much more humane.
Yeah.
And then they run through, and they destroy their crops and their vineyards and their olive groves. He just unbelievable amount of damage that he does with these foxes.
It's another of the crazy stories that we are going to see in this whole these two chapters.
Oh yeah, it doesn't even slow down.
Yeah,
crazy doesn't stop.
So Verse 6, when the Philistines asked who did this, they were told, Samson, the Timonite's son-in-law, because his wife was given to his companion. So the Philistines went up and burned her and her father to death.
Yeah.
Wow. Samson said to them, since you have acted like this, I swear that I won't stop getting my revenge on you. He attacked them viciously and slaughtered many of them. He went down and stayed in a cave in the rock of Edom. The Philistines went up and camped in Judah, spreading out near Lehi. The people of Judah asked, why have you come to fight us? We have come to take Samson prisoner, they asked. They answered, to do to him as he did to us. Then 3,000 men from Judah went down to the cave in the rock of Edom and said to Samson, do you not realize that the Philistines are rulers all over us? What have you done to us?
Okay. So the Philistines, they go to Judah. Now I don't know if this is the first time that Judah is mentioned in any of this, and it may be the only time that Judah is mentioned in this book. But the Philistines remember we said the Philistines would have controlled Judah at this time, but they wouldn't have controlled all of Israel at this time necessarily. Like different places had their. So this time it's Judah. It's Samson dealing with the Philistines around Judah.
Okay. He answered, I merely did to them what they did to me. They said to him, we have come to tie you up and hand you over to the Philistines. Samson said, swear to me that you will not kill me yourselves.
By the way, they're terrified.
Yeah.
They have an idea of what they're dealing with here. So they actually come to him and ask him this stuff. Right?
Yeah. Hey, you're coming with me, son. Would you mind? Verse 13. Agreed, they answered. We will only tie you up and hand you over to them. We will not kill you. So they bound him with 2 new ropes and led him up from the rock. As he approached Lehi, the Philistines came toward him shouting, the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him. The ropes on his arms became like charred flax, and the bindings dropped from his hands. Finding a fresh jawbone of a donkey, they're around just like the foxes, he grabbed it and struck down 1,000 men.
It's not a faculty member's job.
Wow.
It's actually an animal. Yeah.
Then Samson said, with a donkey's jawbone, I have made donkeys of them. With a donkey's jawbone, I have killed 1,000 men. That's some biting poetry there.
Yeah, he wasn't the greatest poet.
Yeah, but still,
but I mean, the point comes across.
Yeah, yeah.
So remember earlier in Judges, a guy named Shamgar, or in Judges anyway, a guy named Shamgar also gets the jawbone of an axe,
right?
And he kills 600 men. So this is not uncommon, it seems, in the book of Judges. And yes, why are there donkeys' jawbones lying everywhere? I don't know either, as you said.
Right beside the fox, who's just sitting there going, hey,
but he kills 1,000. Yeah, I know. Maybe one of the donkeys died when the foxes ran by. That's true.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he kills all these people with this jawbone.
So crazy. Verse 17, when he finished speaking, he threw away the jawbone, and the place was called Ramath Lehi.
Which means Jawbone Hill, by the way.
Oh, okay, cool. Verse 18, because he was very thirsty, he cried out to the Lord, you have given your servant this great victory. Now must I now die of thirst and fall into the hands of the uncircumcised? Oof.
Yeah.
Then God opened up the hollow place in Lehi, and water came out of it. When Samson drank, his strength returned, and he revived. So the spring was called Enlehakor, and it is still there in Lehi. Samson led Israel for 20 years in the days of the Philistines.
Yeah. Crazy, eh? Crazy story. Unbelievably bad guy,
Just nuts.
And just wait till you see how the next chapter starts. So anyway, he is defeating the Philistines. He takes the clothes off those guys. The foxes run through. He kills multitudes of guys, and now with his jawbone, he's killing people. He's just the foxes, of course, were crops and things that he destroyed. But you can imagine there's a lot of death goes around losing all your crops. Yeah. So wait till the next chapter how it starts.
Oh, but wait, there's more.
Yeah.
Here we go. Verse 1 of chapter 16. One day, Samson went to Gaza, where he saw a prostitute. He went in to spend the night with her. The people of Gaza were told, "Samson is here." So they surrounded the place and lay in wait for him all night at the city gate. They made no move during the night, saying, "At dawn we'll kill him." But Samson lay there only until the middle of the night. He got up and took a hold of the doors of the city gate, together with the two posts, tore them loose, bar and all. He lifted them to his shoulders and carried them to the top of the hill that faces Hebron.
Yeah, and if you've ever seen the pictures, like these, we don't know how big these city gates are, but they often show them to be 30 feet high and 30 feet across, or even more. And they're made out of metal, iron, bronze, and wood. So I mean, like thousands of pounds, right? Thousands of pounds. And he just picks these things up and carries them on top, and carries them up to the top of this hill and sets them down. Like, they try to match this in the superhero movies, but they don't get much beyond what this guy can do.
No.
And by the way, they point toward Judah, and so some people think it was a little bit of a message in there as well, because Hebron was the capital of Judah at the time, or was a main city in Judah. I shouldn't say capital. And then he has it pointing toward Hebron.
Okay, interesting. So there's some symbolism there too.
There might be some symbolism, because he wasn't pleased with them for turning him over like that.
Yeah. Okay. Verse 4. Sometime later, he fell in love with a woman in the valley of Sarach, whose name was Delilah.
And now we have Delilah.
She's here.
So if we messed up earlier, she's finally come on the scene.
The rulers of the Philistines went to her and said, "See if you can lure him into showing you the secret of his great strength and how we can overpower him, so we may tie him up and subdue him. Each of us will give you 1,100 shekels of silver," so a lot of money. So Delilah says to Samson, "Tell me your secret of your great strength and how you can be tied up and subdued." Samson answered her, "Anyone that ties me with 7 fresh bowstrings that have never been dried, I will become as weak as any other man." Then the rulers of the Philistines brought her 7 fresh bowstrings that had not been dried, and she tied him with them. With men hidden in the room, she called to him, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you." He snapped the bowstrings as easily as a piece of string snaps when it comes close to a flame. So
now it doesn't say, the secret was not discovered. It doesn't say that he killed those guys. I think he did every time.
Yeah.
But I'm not certain. He may have just walked out.
Yeah.
But he's just goofing with her right now.
Yeah. I'm going down to Moe's.
Yeah.
Then Delilah said to Samson, "You have made a fool of me. You lied to me. Come now, tell me how you can be tied." He said, "If anyone ties me securely with new ropes that have never been used, I will become as weak as any other man." So Delilah took new ropes and tied him with them. Then, with men hidden in the room, she called to him, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you." But he snapped the ropes off his arms just as they were threads. Delilah then said to Samson, "All this time you have been making a fool of me and lying to me. Tell me how you can be tied." He replied, "If you weave the 7 braids of my head into a fabric on a loom and tighten it with a pin, I'll become as weak as any other man." So, while he was sleeping, Delilah took the 7 braids of his head, wove them into fabric, and tightened them with a pin.
Yeah, now how deep does this guy sleep?
Oh my God.
That she can do that to him, eh?
Again she called to him, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you." He woke from his sleep, pulled the pin and the loom with the fabric. My question here is, does he not think that maybe something's afoot?
You remember we said with the first wife, when she did that with, it kept bugging him until he told her about the clothing, about the riddle?
Yeah.
With the lions, with the honey. And then, so, I mean, he's even experienced this once already.
Yeah.
Yeah. But maybe if you're that strong, you just think, yeah, I'm just that strong.
Yeah. Or that stupid. And you think,
I'm not
I
dumb.
am that stupid.
I'm not dumb.
Okay, verse 15. Then she said to him, "How can you say I love you when you won't confide in me? This is the 3rd time you've made a fool of me and haven't told me the secret of your great strength." With such nagging, she prodded him day after day until he was sick to death of it. So he told her everything. "No razor has ever been used on my head," he said, "because I have been a Nazarite dedicated to God from my mother's womb. If my head were shaved, my strength would leave me, and I would become as weak as any other man." When Delilah saw that he had told her everything, she sent word to the Philistines, "Come back once more. He has told me everything." So the rulers of the Philistines returned with the silver in their hands. After putting him to sleep on her lap, she called for someone to shave the braids, his 7 braids of his hair, and so began to subdue him, and his strength left him. Then she called, Samson, the Philistines are upon you. He awoke from his sleep and thought, I will go out before and shake myself free. But he did not know that the Lord had left him. Then the Philistines seized him, gouged out his eyes, and took him down to Gaza. Binding him with bronze shackles, they set him grinding grain in the prison. But the hair on his head began to grow after it had been shaved.
Yeah, and so if you ever see the pictures, they actually the pictures have him where they have the donkeys walk around and around and around,
Yep.
and he's blind now. And I wonder if he finally thought, oh, I guess I shouldn't have told her.
So let's
And
review what I
gouging
did
your eyes
here.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go back over this. And 3 times, and is this the 4th time?
Yeah.
This is the 4th time, right? And they poke out his eyes, man. They gouge out his eyes, which they didn't give him any anesthetic first. And now he's doing grain. Crazy, eh? Crazy story.
Yeah.
I mean, he must have. I get the impression he was a gorgeous man, but he might not have been, because he's sleeping with so many people. Right? My friend has a brother who looked like a Greek god, and he had this same issue, except nobody gouged out his eyes. But he wasn't like us normal men.
Yeah, that's so weird.
And so yeah, Samson's blind now. It's a crazy story but it gets crazier as you read the end
Yep.
of this thing.
Yeah, the ending, is unexpected. Now the rulers of the Philistines assembled to offer a great sacrifice to Dagon, their god, and celebrate, saying, Our God has delivered Samson, our enemy, into our hands. When the people saw him, they praised their God, saying, Our God has delivered our enemy into our hands, the one who laid waste to our land and multiplied our slain. While they were in high spirits, they shouted, Bring Samson to entertain us. So they called Samson out of the prison, and he performed for them.
Yeah, you have no idea what he did to perform for them.
No,
Like I don't think he sang a song
no.
or did any kind of a dance. I think they just brought him out, and this is like bringing out King Kong or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When they stood him among the pillars, Samson said to the servant who held his hand, Put me where I can feel the pillars that support the temple, so that I may lean against them. Now the temple was crowded with men and women. All the rulers of the Philistines were there. And on the roof, I don't remember this part of the story. On the roof there were about 3,000 men and women watching Samson perform. Then Samson prayed to the Lord, Sovereign Lord, remember me. Please, God, strengthen me just once more, and let me with one blow revenge on the Philistines for my 2 eyes. Then Samson reached towards the 2 central pillars on which the temple stood. Bracing himself against them with his right hand on one and his left on the other, Samson said, Let me die with the Philistines. He pushed with all his might, and down came the temple on the rulers and all the people in it. Thus he killed many more when he died than while he lived.
Yeah.
Then his brothers and his father's whole family went down to get him. They brought him back and buried him between Zorah and Eshtaol. In the tomb of Manoah, his father, he had led Israel for 20 years.
And the crazy thing in this story, I mean, the whole story's crazy. you know.
Yeah. Oh,
But one of the
nuts.
crazy things in this story is verse 22. And see, people usually they read the verse where Samson says, Sovereign Lord, let me die with these people, and he's able to push the thing apart. And they don't want to, but you don't want to miss verse 22 where it says, but the hair on his head began to grow again after it had been shaved.
Yeah.
And they leave you with where you could say, no, it's because he prayed. Or you could say, no, it's because his hair grew back
Yeah.
that his strength came back. And there is nothing about the entire story of Samson that fits any Bible believer Christian's view of how life should be. It's and that it says God used this to get back at the Philistines, to defeat the Philistines.
Yeah.
Used what? Used him marrying outside of Israel, used him doing this riddle, used him with the prostitute, You know, tying the fox's tails together, killing them with the jawbone of an ass. You know, getting his eyes poked out because he's too stupid to tell this Delilah, leave me alone. I'm not going to do this for you. You know, this may be the most bizarre story in the Bible.
You were so right.
Even though there's some others that are, like, we're going to get into a couple just coming up that are going to be pretty similar.
But still,
you know?
this one is like, wow, wow level.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Everything about this man goes against Christo-Judean morality, and yet God chose him to do these things.
Yeah, yeah.
So what you don't know is, could he have lived a life that we would have accepted and still do all these things for God? But whatever life he lived, God worked out his plan.
Yeah.
This is a very strong story about that leads to the sovereignty of God.
Yep. Yep.
So for us free will guys, this is a real sovereignty of God thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
The only place you can go with that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, this comes about the same place as God hardened Pharaoh's heart.
Yeah.
You know where you're going, what do you mean God hardened Pharaoh's heart?
Yeah.
You know? What do you mean God used a guy like Samson? You know? But, you know, live wild, die young. leave a beautiful memory.
Samson's a child of Woodstock or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. So it is just a bizarre story.
Yeah.
That we said every Sunday school kid knows it. Now kids don't go to Sunday school anymore.
Right.
So I don't know how many know anything.
Right.
Like, yeah. Yeah. So pretty interesting stuff.
It's very, very interesting. And my friend, thanks so much for illuminating just these little things that we see in this story that we're just having, we just struggle to reconcile. Like you said, verse 22 alone, going, and then how did the Philistines not go, hey, I wonder if his hair grows back, if something bad will happen. So there's a lot of like cognitive dissonance here.
Yeah. So who was the guy that was supposed to cut his hair? The survivors are saying. Whose job was that?
Yeah.
That was the registrar's job, wasn't it? No, I think it was IT. It was IT.
Surely someone wrote this down, didn't they?
Yeah. Yeah, it is just crazy.
Yeah.
It is crazy. Yeah.
My friend, thank you so much for this. Thanks for just bringing this to light. Folks, I hope you enjoyed that. Like Larry said repeatedly, what a bizarre story, and yet the only place we can go is God is sovereign, and he used this for his purposes, for his reasonings. So don't feel like, you cannot read the ridiculous and the sublime in the Bible. There is. God does some things that we just simply don't understand, and that's okay. Well, until next time, thanks so much for joining us. We sure appreciate it. Until next time, I was Steve, he was Larry, and this was the Apoco-Larry Podcast.